Yo, Kip Guy here. Hey, so okay, yes, the title is clickbait, but hear me out. Hear me out. It's not completely clickbait. Let me explain. Give me a chance to defend myself. So here's what's going on. So you guys may or may not have been watching the channel and know that I sold my KEF R11s and bought Arendal 1528 series speakers about 2 or 3 weeks ago. You probably know that by now. But this was in my head to do in December of last year. I knew that I wanted to sell my KEFs and buy something else. It was most likely always going to be Arendal. I didn't know if I wanted KEF reference. I didn't know if I wanted to go per listen. A lot of you guys said either go per listen or Arendal. So what I did was I emailed Arendal and said this: hello, my name is Kyle. I actually run the YouTube channel by the name K-Pace Guy. I've had a lot of growing interest in purchasing your monitor aids to upgrade my current theater. I am in love with a white speaker, so that's what I'd be going for. I did notice the extended wait time for white over the basalt color. My question is, does your team happen to have them available in white, or have they not been made in that color just yet? And is that causing the waiting period? I didn't know if the factory had any demo units that I could purchase. Thank you in advance. So at the time in December, these had just came out to the market, and I noticed that you could get the basalt color pretty quickly, but you had a very long wait time for the polar color, the white color that I purchased. So I didn't know if maybe the basalt color is all you could get, and then the polar color was coming in a later future. I didn't know, so I wanted to ask, right? So a gentleman responds and says, thank you for reaching out and your interest in our new series. The different waiting times depend on different batches. The first batch sold really quickly, and there's a waiting period, and we don't have any demo units for sale. The 1528 monitors are a great speaker. They are big and work best in big rooms and require some good power to shine. If you share more information, I'd be happy to help you in picking your best speakers for your room. So this is really cool, because all I wanted was to simply know if they were in stock or not. But they didn't just stop there. They said, well, hey, they're going to be here soon, but let's make sure that this is the right speaker for you. So they didn't just end the email with, no, coming soon, thanks for reaching out. They engaged with me. I don't know if that's because I left my YouTube channel there or not. I actually doubt that that was the reason why. I think they could care less that I had a YouTube channel, to be honest with you. But let's continue on. So I get a response from a different person now, Mr. Lucas down there. And he says, hello, Kyle. I actually know your channel and have seen some of your videos. Good job. I'm a little worried you might be sitting too close to the monitor 8s and that they will overpower your room. The R11 is pretty mellow in the bass and works in smaller rooms. I used to sell them at my past job. What are your room dimensions and what are you listening to? So this is really cool because, yes, he's an Arendal employee. He's going to advocate for his speakers, but it's nice to know that he has a background in probably audio altogether. He sold a lot of different brands, including the ones that I have, so he knows what I'm used to and knows what I'm coming from. So this was a pretty cool experience for me personally. So I tell him my dimension. I said, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. I was worried as well about that. If it definitely is a small room, half the square feet you guys recommend. We'll get to that in a minute. 14 feet wide by 10 feet deep, and I'm about 9 feet away. I have bigger rooms to transition to, but I'd most likely stay where I'm at. So he responds with, for a room like this, I'd stick with the 1528 Bookshelf 8 speakers. They are plenty big for bookshelf speakers and go very low. They will very likely be a better pick for your room and will be my recommendation. You'd still get the 3D soundstage, the transparency, dynamics, and detail from the 1528 series, but less risk getting overwhelming bass compared to the monitors. We're going to come back to that as well. So I responded with, okay, is that a lateral move coming from the R11s? I was worried. I'm not a bookshelf person. I am a tower person. Even when I bought the monitors, I was worried about not having a tower in my system like I always have my entire life. And so I was worried if I drop down from a KEF R11 that has 5 drivers and a tweeter in the middle, am I just moving laterally? Is it the same kind of thing? So I said, I said, they are crossover at 80 hertz because I have 4 massive subs in here. So a lot of bass is routed away from the towers. For me, the upgrade is more in terms of sound quality. I wasn't necessarily looking for bass in my upgrade. I was looking for just overall soundstage to be improved in every way. So he responds with, nope, that could be a lateral remove from the KEF reference series, not the R1. So that told me there that the KEF reference series, which is multiple grand more than the R11s. We're talking like $10, $15, $20,000 a pair. They're comparing their bookshelf speaker to the reference line of the Kef series. I guess like the Kef, what's it called? The R1, R3s, I guess their bookshelf speakers or whatever. They're very expensive. So they're comparing their bookshelf speakers to the reference line from Kef. And if I had the reference line, then yes, it would be apples to apples. But because I'm coming from the R line, it's a good step up in everything, he said. She said, it's allowed to remove if you had the reference series, not the R1. If you have 4 subs, the 1528 Bookshelf 8 would get an even higher recommendation. 80 Hz will be easily achievable for the bookshelf to have a smooth transition. So he's saying the bookshelf speakers will play nicely with the subs, cross over at 8, have a beautiful blend in a room of your size. So I said, very interesting. I know your team is in the middle of sending out review units to influencers / content creators. By chance, is there a way I can audition the bookshelves for YouTube and potentially make a purchase from there? I was very hesitant on bookshelf speakers. It's just something in my heart did not want one, but I wanted to hear him out. So I was willing to audition them, make a video about it, and then in my time doing that, I would know if I wanted one or not, and then buy them if I had them. But unfortunately, his next response was, well, unfortunately, we only have a few units that are all planned for the upcoming months. The 1528 series, no matter the model, is a huge step up from the R and even the reference for less money. So now he's telling me that the Kef reference line doesn't even touch the Arendal 1528, which is a huge claim considering the R11s was noted as one of the best speakers in its price range. And now Arendal is coming out and saying, no, Kef doesn't have anything on us except the blades, which is a really cool claim. But anyway, Kef makes great speakers, do not get me wrong, but I personally always miss the attack and dynamics. They sound very mellow and do not play loud without distortion. So it's funny he says this because this was my number one and only reason for upgrading the Kefs is they are very neutral speakers, which means they sound good for a lot of things, almost everything. But sometimes they seem, I don't know, lifeless. Sometimes, to the point where they almost can be called boring. Don't get me wrong, I love the Kef R11 sound because I can put anything to them and I know that I'm getting what the artist intended me to hear. There's no coloration, there's nothing like that. But it's like making cornbread. And you don't have to put, if you've ever made Jiffy cornbread from Walmart or Kroger in the white and blue box, the instructions on the Jiffy cornbread say to pour in the batter, pour in some milk, drop an egg, mix it, throw it in the oven. You can just eat it that way. And yeah, it'll taste fine, but a lot of people add sugar to it. I add sugar to it to give it a little more flavor, a sweeter taste. And that's how I feel about the Kef R11s. It doesn't say to add sugar, but by golly, you sometimes wish that it had it so that you had some sort of flavor to it. That's the best way that I can talk about the R11s. It's not bad. Sometimes you just need a little more sugar on it to set it over the top, and that's why I upgraded from them. So let's see what I said next. I said I have a lot to think about. I'm pretty set on Arendal speakers. I appreciate you taking the time. He said, anytime, Kyle. I have written down your contact information should a review spot open up. Thanks and have a great day. I said, I greatly appreciate it. Same to you. So a really cool conversation because Lucas here didn't have to talk to me beyond me asking, hey, are the Monitor 8s available in white? He could have just said, yeah or no. They'll be here soon. But yeah, go ahead and purchase them. They're more expensive speakers. Of course, Arendal wants me to buy their more expensive speaker, but Lucas took the time and replied very quickly and told me, hey, Monitor 8s are great, but in your room, since I know your space and what you're using right now, I recommend the bookshelf speakers, even though they're a lesser expensive speaker. So it's really cool that he took the time to guide me in what he thought was the right decision. And maybe he's right. I don't know, because I bought the Monitor 8s anyway. And that's what I want to talk about to end this video. The Monitor 8s are a big speaker, and my room obviously is very small. I have been pleasantly surprised that I have managed to get the Monitor 8s to work incredibly well in my system. I don't have an overwhelming bass issue, and maybe it's because of acoustic treatment, maybe it's because it's symmetrical, maybe it's the both, maybe it's the calibration that I've done extensively. I don't know. But I was worried about them truly being too big. He really did put it in my mind that this could be a bad purchase. And then when I opened them and saw how big they are, I really thought that this was a bad purchase. But I took the time to put them in the room where they best fit. They're off the wall like 2 feet or so. So they're in the room really well. And my seating position is off the wall pretty well too. So I'm about 2/3 away from the room and then away from the back wall, and then my speakers are off the wall too. So I'm reducing as much boundary gain as I can reduce in my room, and I have a lot of acoustic treatment. I actually bought some more, which we'll talk about in a later video. And they actually sound incredibly well for my room. And even though they sound good, they probably would still just evolve in a bigger space, and eventually I'll either move a room or I'll move a house and we'll put it, or the living room or whatever. So I have bigger spaces available, but I am really impressed with how well they sound even in a small room. It's been incredible. So yes, the bookshelf speakers may have been a better fit space-wise because of the bass, but the bass is so tight and well balanced with the rest of the frequencies that I actually didn't have much fuss overpowering my room. It didn't happen that way for me. I actually have really good room acoustics, and the room plays really well with frequencies. I have a very flat response across 0 hertz to 120 hertz minus a couple. It's a very smooth and balanced response. Like between 5 hertz and 120, it's like 3 dB between each other. It's incredibly smooth with or without the Arendal speakers plugged in. So I didn't have an overpowering issue. So I want to end this already long video by saying you do have to pay attention to putting too big of a speaker into a small room, whether that's a loudspeaker or a subwoofer. You can cause yourself issues. But I'm glad I took the risk. I have a little bit of knowledge, enough knowledge to know how to correct any issues that I'm having with a mini DSP, with just DSP in general, equalization, phase, time aligning. I have enough knowledge to where I can fix a lot of stuff, but it wasn't that hard. The Arendals were so good at what they do, and they didn't really overwhelm me that there wasn't much to fix anyway. So you have to be careful with putting too big of a speaker in a room because it can sound really bad. But at the same time, if you have a little bit of education and you know your space and you have acoustic treatment and you know what you're doing when it comes to calibration, you can make a pretty decently large speaker work in a small space. I'm not saying that I'm getting the best out of them, because again, I could probably get the best out of the speakers in a bigger space, but they're so good where they are that I don't feel the need to move to a bigger room. They actually perform the way that I think Arendal intended them to do. So I just wanted to give a huge shout out to Arendal and their staff for taking the time to respond to me and kind of guide me in the direction they felt best, because they know their speakers better than I do at that time. But I'm also shout out to me for taking a risk and trying it and trusting myself in my decision making, because I am way more than happy with what I purchased, and I probably would have been really happy with the bookshelves. But I would have always thought about, I wonder what it would be like if I had the monitor aids. And I don't have to think that anymore because I'm happy. I know the towers would have been way too big. That's a no-brainer. But the monitor aids fit me, my style, and I'm very happy. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you're in the market for speakers, subwoofers, or loudspeakers, make sure you do your research, ask around, get people's opinions from the manufacturer and have them recommend what they think is best for your space. It goes a long way. And then ask your trusted reviewers. If you trust some YouTubers or whatever, forums, ask everybody their opinion before you make a purchase. I know it's hard, so ask around. You'll get some good advice. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hit the like button, subscribe if you're not already, and we will see you guys in the next video. Keep this guy out. Peace.